Hello everyone. As you all know, for the past year, I've been trying to make an Angry Birds timeline. However, as some of you might have noticed, but you probably didn't, and I'm just now pointing this out, I left the actual time part of it fairly blank. This is because I didn't really know when Angry Birds took place. Exactly. So today, I'm going to answer that question. When does Angry Birds take place? Our first hint is in Danger Above 7-11, with the level being the date 1982 and a race car above it. And now some of you might think that this means Angry Birds Go takes place in 1982, which it isn't too far off, but let's not get into that right now. But unfortunately, that's not what this is really suggesting. Instead, this is dedicated to Keke Rosberg, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who won the 1982 Formula 1 or relationship, whatever. Credit to the Angry Birds wiki, by the way. So, theory busted then? Well, maybe not. Because I was doing a lot of research for this video and, well, I couldn't really find much of anything. That is, until I stumbled across this. Rovio, please don't copyright me for this. It's only going to take a second, trust me. October 21st, 1987. This changes everything. Give me a second. Okay, so the date October 21st is already pretty important, as that's the release date of Trick or Treat in 2010 and Halloween in 2011. So, already off to a pretty important start here. Now, the video itself is also pretty important. It shows footage from the Bad Piggies level pack, Tossed Till Dawn, and the Angry Birds Friends 2013 Halloween tournament. How can that be the case? They're clearly not the same year according to the timeline I presented. Well, I think I just messed up a little. And Angry Birds Friends takes place relatively across the timeline, rather than just being right at the end. Which makes sense, as early tournaments do show the pigs stealing the eggs, implying that they're still doing that sort of thing during that time. There's that mystery solved. But I think this tells us more than just where Angry Birds Friends goes in the timeline. You see, it shows footage specifically from the 2013 Halloween tournament. Well, 4 years after this was the 2017 Double Trouble tournament, which was where players, through levels, could collect Hostess cupcakes and feed them to these two monsters here. Pinto King? I think that's how you pronounce that. And T-Bone. It's basically the Minecraft mob vote, but actually good. Well, in the end, Pinto King ended up winning, turning the entire tournament into a giant Ghostbusters reference. Why do I bring this up? Well, if the 2013 Halloween tournament is believed to take place in 1987, that means Double Trouble tournament takes place in 1991, which is, get this, the same year Ghostbusters the video game takes place in. Save that for your Booze and Bubbles Gaming Out of Context compilations. But in all seriousness, this can't be a coincidence, can it? In fact, the only thing that could possibly break it is if the Chinese zodiac didn't line up, which is a pretty odd thing to bring up, right? Pretty, also out of pocket, right? And what do you know, they don't line up. As you can see here, 1986 is the year of the tiger. Even though, according to the timeline I've presented, should be the Year of the Dragon, right? Now, admittedly, the episode did release in 2012, which was a Year of the Dragon at that time. But surely if there must be some way to go around this, maybe it's just they called it that because the mighty dragon showed up. Unfortunately, I don't think so. Because you see, in the previous year's Chinese episode in Angry Birds Seasons, the Moon Festival episode, you can clearly see that the moon has a rabbit in it, as well as a bunch of other rabbit-themed ornamentals and stuff. A clear reference to how that year, 2011, was the Year of the Rabbit. Clearly, something's not lining up here, and yet, everything should line up, potentially, right? They wouldn't say 1987 for nothing, right? Well, I don't think the theory is busted just yet. And this is about to be a bit of a stretch, but there is a theory out there, not mine obviously, that states that Angry Birds takes place in a post-human world, after humans go extinct. Now, at first, I don't really believe this theory all that much, considering the timeline I've brought up and everything, but I think there is more evidence now to prove it than there ever was when it was first brought up. Beyond just, oh, there's these human items in this one Angry Birds Toons episode. It's a cartoon. Doesn't matter. But there is still evidence now. For example, in the Melody comic, you see that the world is split up into a bunch of numerous islands. I, initially, chalked this up to essentially just being, oh, well, the Angry Birds world is just like that. But if our post-human theory is to be believed, then that means something huge. See, for those of you in the back who don't know yet, the Earth is made out of a bunch of things called tectonic plates. And these plates shift around, move around a lot, but very, very slowly. In fact, these plates shifting into and across each other that cause earthquakes. I think, after millions of years, after humans went extinct and whatever, the plates shifted across each other so much that they all broke up, causing the entire world to break up into a bunch of islands. And that does sound kind of unlikely, but this is Angry Birds we're talking about here. Another thing to consider is the existence of Santa Claus. He's not depicted many times in the franchise, but the few times he is, most of the time he's depicted as a human. It'd be a bit odd for there to be something like that in a world where everyone else is either a bird or a pig. If post-human theories to believe, then, well, he exists at the same time as humans, in a human form, kinda, and so he just kept that after humans went extinct. Remember, Santa's an immortal being. He can survive an apocalypse, probably. So, here's what I think happened. Humans, at some point in the distant future, go extinct. Birds evolve into a dominant species. Yeah, they lose their limbs. It's weird, but like I said, it's Angry Birds. It doesn't make sense in this franchise anymore. And after doing so, my timeline takes place. At least the newly updated one I presented now. In a bit of an altered future, where time was reset. And so the sign of Zodiac is shifted a little to accommodate these changes. Thus explaining the 1987 not lining up with the rest of the timeline. So, when does Angry Birds take place? Essentially, the 1980s. At least, for the Birds timeline. I predict it's roughly 1980 years after maybe birds become the dominant species. At least, roughly after that. This little slide here shows when I think some of the games could potentially take place. I know Angry Birds Go says 1983, But 1982 could work as well. But that'd be a bit of a long gap and doesn't make much sense, to be honest, according to the timeline I've presented. But, yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!